Hi everyone! So I did say on Instagram on my stories earlier on in the week that I was going to have a special guest on my channel today, and we thought it was only fitting that we finish as we started because this is the last time we're going to be filming in this filming room. And then pretty much straight after, in the next few days, we're going to be dismantling everything and taking it down, which is going to be really, really strange. So I wanted to mark this occasion having my mum on again because you've been such a huge supporter of me ever since I started.
Always.
And I used to do your makeup all the time on this channel, and then we've sort of switched to different things. So that's exactly what we're going to go back to today. I am going to be doing my mum's makeup from scratch, and I hope I've not forgotten how to do it. So we're going to get straight on with it. If you are new here, hi, my name's Gemma, this is my mum Jan. I create content on YouTube every single week. I would love it, and my mum would love it as well, if you would consider coming and joining the Pampered Wolf Pack by clicking on the like button, the subscribe button and the notification bell. So we've already prepped the skin using the GEEK and Gorgeous Hydration Station, and then just around those drier areas we've added the Dermatica Nourishing Ceramide and Peptide Moisturiser, and I'm just about to add a primer. The primer that we're using today is the Shiseido Synchro Skin Soft Blurring Primer. Just going to warm that up on the back of my hand, add the smallest amount, and then with my fingers just gently massage that into my mum's skin. Then I'm going to go ahead and prime my mum's eyelids using the Revolution Lock Grip Eyeshadow Primer. This stuff is just amazing. It really is. It's clear, so it's not going to cover up any pigmentation that you've got. If you require that, you're going to need something else. But as we're going to be applying some eyeshadow over the top, and my mum doesn't have a lot of discoloration on her eyelids anymore because of the niacinamide, then we're going to go in with this one. It really does help to lock that shadow in place and prevent it from creasing. It also prevents any of your natural oils coming through and making the pigmentation of the eyeshadow wear throughout the day. So once that's applied, I'm just going to press that in with my fingers very, very gently. Because we're going for a really soft daytime natural look today, we're going to go for some mattes. Not that anybody with mature skin can't wear shimmers, that is a complete and utter myth. You can definitely get away with shimmers if you want to, but this palette is just so wearable, looks good on absolutely everybody, so we thought we'd use it today. It's from Charlotte Tilbury and it's the Super Nudes Easy Eye palette. So I'm going to dip into this neutral shade. It's a really light shade just to add a bit of dimension in the crease. It's always a good tip to apply any colours that are going to go in the crease with your eyes open, so you know exactly where they're going to sit when you actually have your eyes open, which is the way that you normally are. So you want it to look good when you have your eyes open. And I'm just placing that down using patting motions on the eyelid. I usually work towards the end of the brow just as a guideline, so go from the corner of the eye and use a straight line all the way up to the corner of the brow, and then just pat that in slightly above the crease just to lift that eye a little bit. And then with what's left on the brush, I'm just going to feather that in to the inner corner of the eye. Then with exactly the same brush, I'm going to go into this dark brown, put the tiniest amount on my brush and go right into this corner, just a little bit further in than I did before, just to add a bit of depth. Then I'm going to go into the lightest shade in the palette, which for me and my mum is more of a skin shade colour. I'm not using this to add any pigmentation. I'm just going to use this to soften it off and use it more like a translucent powder. So instead of applying this quite heavily, I'm holding my brush right at the end and I'm just dabbing this on just around the border of where I've placed the shadows, just to soften that off and make sure it's a really lovely blend into the skin. I'm going to dip back into the lightest shade and place that from the inner corner of the lid to halfway across. This will just open the eye up and make my mum look even more awake than she already does. So it's at this stage where I always think it should look better than it actually does, and you always want to apply more than is actually necessary. So I'm going to leave it there because it looks really soft and muted and really, really beautiful. My mum's eyes just look stunning. We're going to apply the rest of the base products and then we'll see that the eye look will come to life. So I'm going to be using a little bit of concealer to cover over my mum's imperfections, any redness, any broken capillaries. I find if you do this first, it's so much easier to see where you actually need foundation rather than putting foundation all over the skin, and then you get a much more natural coverage. This is the Lancome All Over Concealer. It's my favourite. You really like it as well,
I really
don't you?
love that one, yeah.
So I'm just going to apply this on the back of my hand. Again, another tip to make sure that you don't apply too much. So I'm going to apply a little bit around the nose area. This is a problem area for so many people. And my mum's skin is absolutely amazing now, but there are still some broken capillaries around this section. I'm going to also apply a little bit over the redness. It's nowhere near like it used to be, is it, your skin? There's only a bit of, it's not really redness anymore, it's more pinky. So we're just applying a little bit over there and then taking my finger and just padding that in with the warmth of my finger. And it just makes it far more skin-like. Look at that, you just can't see it, you cannot see it. Now I'm going to pay particular attention to this spot right in the inner corner. This is where a lot of people get some quite dark discoloration. So I'm going to make sure that that's covered over before I do the under eyes, just to let that sit on the skin a little bit. Start to dry down, you'll get more coverage out of it. So I'm just going to add a little bit more concealer onto the back of my hands. Don't be tempted to add concealer onto the skin that's already dried down because you won't get as nice a finish. You want it to dry on the skin, not before you apply it to the skin. I'm going to pad that with my finger underneath the eye, using very, very gentle pressure, just to work that into the skin. My mum's skin is amazing, but she does still have some fine lines around this area, so you do need to be careful that you work that in to the skin rather than letting it sit on top of the fine lines, because if you do let it sit on top of the fine lines, it will show later on throughout the day as your skin moves, so you want to make sure that it's really worked in well. Whilst that's drying down, we're going to try a brand new foundation on my mum's skin. Now I've tried this on my skin, but I haven't shared my thoughts yet. I am going to do a full foundation roundup of all the new foundations when I'm settled in the new filming space. But for now, we'll try this on my mum's skin, but you've never had this on before, have you?
No, I haven't.
We'll see how it sits. It's a really nice, loose consistency. So I'm hoping that this really does settle nicely and warm up nicely into the skin. I will add all of the shades and all of the products in the description box for you if anybody wants to have a look at those. And I'm just pressing this in the areas that I think we could just have a little bit more coverage. But I'm not going overboard with this at all. I'm just continuing to bounce this over the skin to make sure that once again we push this into the skin and any that's left on the surface gets reabsorbed by the sponge. Just to make sure that we don't over apply. Not going to pay much attention to my mum's forehead because, as she keeps telling me, she has a fringe. So the shade that I'm using is actually my shade, so it's way too fair for my mum. We are going to bronze this up towards the end, but desperately wanted to try this, and it's my mum's fault. She's only just got back from Egypt and is a little bit more tanned than usual, so we will bronze it up a little bit later. So although my mum had her eyebrows dyed a little bit while she was in Egypt, we are going to add a bit more shape using the NYX Microbrow pencil in the shade Ash Brown. So I'm just going to brush through using the spoolie and then just apply a little bit, but again, not masses. I'm just going to go around the outline first just to add a bit of dimension, and I'm concentrating more on the outer portion, which tends to be the area where a lot of people see some brow shedding as they get a bit older, and they lose a lot of pigmentation in the brow hairs in this area. So we're just going to add a little bit more. You can be a little bit more heavy-handed than I'm being because we are going to soften this off with a spoolie. Just going to brush through the brows again and soften all of that brow pencil off. So I'm going to perfect that under eye using the Tom Ford concealer. This is the Soft Matte Concealer in the shade 2N0, which is Creme, and I'm just again applying this with my finger and only going over the areas of darkness. It would be at this stage, or actually before this stage, that I would have gone in and corrected any creasing under the eye, but I actually went in to go and do that and realised there wasn't any creasing whatsoever. So spending a little bit more time pushing that concealer into the skin earlier definitely did work. So we've just been discussing which bronzer to use, whether we're going to use powder or cream. My mum's never used the Makeup by Mario contour stick before, so we thought we'd give this one a go, and it is such a lovely and very, very easy product to work with. So instead of applying this directly to the face, which is what I usually do for myself, I'm actually going to apply this on the back of my hand and then go in with either a sponge or a brush just in the areas that I think we need it. Such a subtle look when you apply it on the back of your hand first. If you go in direct to the skin, you get a little bit more punch. Now on myself, I do like to contour this area here, but as we age we lose a lot of the fat deposits around this area, so sometimes by contouring that area it can actually age you a little bit, so I'm going to miss out that area there and just apply this over the forehead and then underneath the cheekbones as well. Now again, this all depends on your face shape. If you find that you've got a lot of hollows underneath that cheekbone anyway, I would skip this step, because by applying the contour you're just going to make those hollows look even deeper, and that might not be a look that you want to go for. And then this is the area where I really want to work on, just underneath that jawline, just to make everything look a little bit more snatched. This will really help if you started to get a little bit jowly. This really does help to disguise those more jowled areas. Doesn't have to be really dark. You're not supposed to be able to see this, so if you're having a conversation with somebody, they're not going to be able to see a line. You just blend it really nicely down the neck. Another area that I think is really important is right underneath the chin area. Again, it just finishes everything off really nicely. You can also add a bit on the chin as well, and I'm definitely going to do that because the foundation was the wrong shade, so we want to deepen that off a little bit for my mum. So I'm just going to make sure there's no creasing on the Tom Ford concealer. There isn't. So I'm then just going to go in with my finger this time. Usually I would go in with either a damp sponge or a powder puff, but I'm going to pop a little bit on my finger and then press that into the skin underneath the eyes. This will set everything in place, but because we're using a finger, it won't look dry. Then we're going to finish off the under eyes using the first shade that we applied, that really beautiful light neutral tone, and then dust that underneath the outer corner of the lower lash line. I'm going about halfway across and then swiping up at the end just to lift up that eye, making sure that we get it in that outer corner. Just finishes everything off and makes it look much more seamless. Then going to tightline my mum's upper waterline using the Makeup by Mario pencil in the shade Perfect Brown. This is such a lovely neutral shade, very, very wearable for absolutely everybody, and it just gives the look a bit of a softness. Then going to do the lower waterline with the Makeup by Mario Brightening pencil. This is a lovely matte cream pencil and just makes the eyes look really wide awake and bright. This is great for anybody that suffers with quite a red lower waterline or upper line. If you are one of those people, then tightlining might be a really good idea for you, but if you have really sensitive eyes, I would definitely steer away from it. So I've spoken about this mascara on my channel several times before. It's the YSL Lash Clash in the shade 2, which is a really nice brown shade. So although I've been really enjoying it at the moment, let's see if my mum does as well. So I tend to like to do blush last because I just think it just finishes everything off and brings the look together. So we're going to do lips, and to line the lips I'm using the Victoria Beckham lip definer in the shade 2, which is my favourite. We are going to see if one of my favourite lip combos also suits my mum and you love it as much as I do. So once I've put a little bit of liner on the outer lip line, which I think is incredibly important, just going to rub it using the side of the pencil to bring it into the lip a little bit. And then I'm going to soften that off with my finger, just so if the lipstick wears off throughout the day, you've still got a little bit of something on your lips and your lips still look defined. Then I'm going to take some of the iconic Melting Touch lip balm in the shade Strapless and apply that all over the body of the lip. It is such a lovely shade and gives the lip back a little bit of life with a little bit of a shine. It's also really hydrating and nourishing, and considering it's a balm, it also lasts quite a decent amount of time, obviously unless you're eating or drinking, in which case you will have to reapply it quite quickly. Then I'm going to do a little bit of a trick that I've learned recently from another YouTuber, and I will link him below because he is absolutely amazing. I'm going to take a very, very light shade of eyeshadow. You can use a light shade of pencil in this instant, or you can use anything that has a really light tone, some nice concealer that's a little bit lighter than your skin tone, but I like to use eyeshadow because it's a little softer and easier if you make any mistakes. So I'm just going to add a little bit underneath to create a lifted effect right on the outer corner of the eye. And it does make quite a bit of a difference, even though it's a very, very soft effect. And if you feel like you've applied a little too much, you can then just go in with your finger and blur out the edge. If you've already added a wing to the top of the lash line, this will also help to define that wing on the outer corner of the eye. So to finish off the look, we're going to use a bit of blush and then finally some powder to set everything in place. This is the Chanel Water Fresh blush, and it is honestly my favourite blush. I think it's so easy to work with. You just add a little bit to the back of your hand and then massage that together to break all the pigment particles. It is water. That is exactly what it is. Just a bit of water on the back of the hand with a bit of pigment. And then with a brush, just apply this really softly on my mum's cheek. We're going to set this look in place using the RODIAL glass powder, and then we're going to spray a little bit of setting mist over the top. So I've got a little bit of powder in the top of the lid, and I'm taking my Refa 30 brush. You don't need this brush, anything that's similar will do. And really mashing that powder into the brush, knocking off the excess, and then in circular motions, very, very light hand, just really work this into the skin. You may find that you don't need this step, but it really does blur any imperfections, any larger pores, and set everything so you've got much more longevity to your makeup.
It's one of my favourite techniques, this one.
Your skin does look flawless a lot of the times when you arrive, and I say, what foundation have you got on? And it's not the foundation, or sometimes it is, but often it's this technique. It also softens everything off, so if you have applied a little bit too much bronzer or a little bit too much blush, you can soften it off using a little bit of powder. It just melts everything into the skin. Final step, and this isn't always necessary. I think a lot of people like to use a setting spray if they wanted to melt the powder into the skin, but using that technique, that's not necessary because the powder's already within the skin. It doesn't look powdery. If you are wanting to increase the longevity of your makeup even further though, I definitely recommend this setting spray. It's the Translucent Pure setting spray from Laura Mercier, and it's just lovely. It doesn't change the look of your makeup, which is why I love it. It's not one of those dewy ones or matte ones. It will just keep your makeup looking exactly the way that it is. So this is it, the finished look, and I think it's safe to say that you really like it.
I do. I really like it, and I love the foundation. Really like that.
It looks incredibly skin-like. I think this is way more skin-like than the Clé de Peau, which a lot of people will be extremely pleased to hear. It's not as blurring as the Clé de Peau. However, with the use of the buffing technique with the powder, it has blurred your skin and it still looks like skin. It looks so natural and really beautiful, but perfected all in one. Now, I really like it. I think you look beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you, darling.
So that is it for this video, and in fact this filming room, because that is all we're doing in this filming room. That is it.
It's the end of an era.
It's exciting, but it's also quite emotional at the same time. I started in this room. I've been in so many configurations in this room. I've been pointing towards that way, I've been pointing towards that way, we've been at an angle, and now we've settled this way. But we've outgrown the space. We are together.
Cramped.
It's a little bit cramped in here, so it's needed. But this room has been good to me. It's also been good to you.
Yeah.
It's made us even closer. So yeah, we're going to say bye to this filming room and just start dismantling everything over the next few days and taking it all downstairs.
No.
But it's exciting because the new space will be so much nicer, and there will be a space for Ralph, so he'll be able to sit behind me whilst we're filming. I will put a pinned comment at the top of the comment section to let you know my mum's thoughts about how this foundation wears on your skin, because at the moment it looks gorgeous, but that doesn't mean very much in the scale of a foundation. We need longevity. We need it to look like this for quite a considerable amount of time. Thank you to my mum for being an absolute superstar.
I just sat here whilst you were pampering me all the time.
I don't just mean today, I mean like
Sorry.
throughout the entire... I worked it out the other day, we started in 2017.
Oh, wow.
So it's a long time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, signing off.
6 years.
I know.
Wow.
November 2017. So thank you very much for everybody that supported me whilst we've been in this room. I absolutely love you. I think you're amazing. For those of you that were with me in 2017 and you've stuck with me, you have patience. I appreciate it. I think it's safe to say that we love everybody.
Absolutely adore you.
Thank you. I hope to see you all in the next video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Give my mum some love in the comment section, and we hope to see you all in the new but not finished filming room in the next few videos. Bye everyone.
Bye.